Hello, good evening. A priest who sexually abused young boys has been sentenced to 22 years in prison.
Alexander Bede Walsh was branded shameless by the judge after he was found guilty of 21 sexual offences over a period of 18 years. He committed his crimes in Coventry, Staffordshire and Warwickshire between 1975 and 1993.
One of his victims was at court today and told Central Tonight of his relief at justice finally being done. Charlotte Grant reports.
It was while Alexander Bede Walsh was working as a priest that he carried out what's been described as a serial and predatory campaign of sexual abuse. Michael Clifford was one of his victims. He chose to waive his anonymity and speak to Central Tonight. This afternoon, he told me what Walsh's jail sentence means to him.
How can you put it in words? Relieved, happy, and just glad it's been sorted. But it has been a hard, long, hard road for me, living with it, and I'm hoping I can move on from this and be happy.
Alexander Bede Walsh, or Father Bede as he was known, trained in Birmingham and was ordained in 1979. In the 80s he worked at All Souls Church in Coventry before moving to Cotton in Staffordshire. He was later in charge of St Giles Church in Cheadle and by the late 90s was also responsible for Alton Parish. As Walsh moved from parish to parish, he abused again and again. He used his revered status to groom his victims, befriending their families first to gain their trust. One of the victims was so traumatised, he tried to take his own life. At court today, many victims and their families turned up to see Alexander Bede Walsh being sentenced. Even some of the jury members who didn't need to return came back to hear what the judge had to say. The judge described Walsh's attitude as shameless. He said, "You show no remorse," and lied repeatedly. He was sentenced to 22 years in prison.
If you think about the victims, they've been living a life sentence ever since the abuse. From a very young age, 8 to 10 to 12 years of age, these are now grown men who are living that life sentence. And now for Walsh to be serving what in terms may be a life sentence, I'm very, very grateful for that.
Walsh has now been disqualified from ever working with children again. His victims say that they hope as adults they can now get on with living their lives. Charlotte Grant in Stoke-on-Trent for Central Tonight.
200 pupils.